Welcome back to Friday Coffee Talks. I'm Connor, I'm your host, and we are here for episode number 85. It's Friday Coffee Talks, where we talk over coffee on Fridays. It's a wonderful Friday morning, and I'm glad you're back. I've got a great show for you today. I'm combining a couple things I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and today's the day. I've been working on a little project called the Great Coffee Showdown. If you've seen previous episodes, you've seen the first couple rounds, and we are moving on to the final four today. I couldn't figure out how to advance the last four on my own, and so I have a little help. I have a special guest today that'll be helping me drink some coffee, and I have a wonderful conversation with just one of the best people in the whole wide world. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the Great Coffee Showdown Final Four and my conversation with Adam Kersh. Well, thanks for joining me. We are back. It's Friday Coffee Talks. I am here. It's the Great Coffee Showdown Final Four. We've got them laid out here. I'm obviously not in my basement, and I'm obviously not alone. So this is the first time we've done a hybrid coffee bracket / interview. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, this gentleman next to me, he is a husband, father, musician, pastor, leader, friend, construction guy. My kids argue that between him and Ben Rector, one of them has the best voice in the world. I won't tell you which kid takes your side. And one of my very best friends in the whole world, Adam Kersh. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Great to see you guys.
Thanks for taking the time.
To be here, man. Anytime we can get together and sip a cup of Black Joe, I'm good, man. Yeah. Or four different ones.
Or four. And that's what we're doing today. So it is the Great Coffee Showdown round three. Final four. We've got them all laid out here. We've followed all the parameters. It is a blind taste test, as blind as we can get it.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I have no idea what's in these cups. I know that they're from four different places. Here's the bracket. If you don't remember where we are, it's up here. So we're down to the final four: McDonald's, Crystal, Racetrack, and Einstein.
I saw a couple of ones that got eliminated, and I actually had some surprises. It was like, these are some of the ones I know. When I saw Duncan got eliminated, I was like, maybe I need to drink some of this a little bit more, but we're going to see.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see.
So mine has a little bit of cream. That's the way I like it. Yours are all just straight black.
Yeah.
We're going to rank them. We're going to try them. We're going to rank them. And then we're in a bracket. So we'll have to just say, like, whichever one gets the higher ranking is going to win. Because we may not be 1-1 here.
Okay.
All right?
Sounds
good. So let's talk a little bit before we jump into the coffee. They're getting cold. They're going to get colder.
It's fine.
I'm obviously not in my basement. Normally these episodes are my background, my Legos, and my random stuff in my basement. Tell me a little bit about where we are.
Okay, yeah, this is cool. We are in Athens, Georgia, which is the opposite of his basement, considering his has a Georgia Tech helmet that sits right here, which a little bit about my background. I'm third generation Georgia Bulldog. But Connor knows this. My dad raised me kind of like whenever we weren't playing Georgia Tech, I'll admit it. Like he was like, we actually pulled for Georgia Tech, and I know now why that's true, because now that I'm in construction, my dad grew up owning a construction company. All of our best engineers were from Georgia Tech, and so he was like pulling for him, of course, because it's a great school, and also like repping the state of Georgia. But when we play each other, in sports,
bets are off.
Yeah, it's off. And they have to be. They have to be. Most people don't know this about you, but you almost went to Georgia.
I did.
You grew up a Georgia fan.
I did, yeah. In fact, if you go to my childhood bedroom, there's still a Georgia flag hanging in my parents' house. I'm ashamed to say. Because I'm not. I mean, you know me. I'm not that way.
You're not that way.
I don't have any love for UGA, unfortunately.
You can't.
I can't reciprocate that.
Yeah. But you do come to Athens to appease me, and I appreciate that.
And specifically, this great building, 1051 Baxter.
That's right. So we have, it's kind of a twofold building, but the building is an event space called 1051 Baxter, and it is also home of our nonprofit, the 501 Exchange, and we deeply believe that a free life is possible, or a freedom ministry, and so we have gatherings here, we have discipleship here, a couple people office out of here, you might even hear them in the background, but it's an awesome opportunity to have a home for our nonprofit. And so 1051 is a for-profit entity. It does events, can book events here, corporate events, weddings, all sorts of things. Gorgeous place, while also housing our nonprofit. So Yeah, that's where we're at. And it is just recently finished. I mean, we still have punch lists going on around us, and it's cool, man.
No hammering today, but
no hammering.
But sometimes.
No, we actually just pushed somebody away right before you got here. It's like,
get out of here. And the history of this building is so cool, too. I mean, you guys bought it. It used to be a strip club. It used to be, like, desolate.
That's right. It was the longest standing strip club in Athens through I think it was 42 years. Bought by a pastor who was also a banker. He was a local banker. And him and his wife have even just walked us through this process of renovating it. Renovated, funny enough, by my company, Blue Frog, out of Suwanee, Georgia. And so, yeah, it is an amazing story, an amazing space, not just of renovation, but of redemption. And we believe that a lot of amazing stories are going to happen right here.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thanks for coming, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, any chance I can get to come here, I mean, honestly, this place is amazing. You see brick in between two ferns, but this will
shout out between two ferns.
Awesome. Yeah, you can call me Zach. Yeah, it'll be perfect. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for taking the time. Shall we drink some coffee?
Please.
Right. We're gonna go right to left, and let's just try them. I'm gonna jump in.
Jump in right now. Okay. Yeah.
This is number 1.
I always smell it. Is that the wrong thing to do?
Just spit it out. It smells pretty good.
It actually does. It's slightly more watery than I thought it was going to be by the smell.
It's a solid cup of coffee.
Obviously, with the cream, takes away the watered downness.
Yeah.
Which is, funny story about my coffee drinking history. I love your podcast because Friday coffee. I didn't drink coffee at all till I met my wife. And then the way she got me in on it was to load that junk up with some sugar.
Yeah.
French vanilla creamer. Then I just started tapering it back to where I only wanted it black.
You belong in the construction industry.
I prefer a latte.
Me too.
That part doesn't belong in the construction industry. Okay. Yeah.
This one tastes like, I've said it a few times on here. Have you ever stayed at a Hampton Inn and they have the coffee in the lobby?
Yes.
That's what this tastes like, especially in a blue cup too. It makes me feel
completely agree with you.
Yeah.
That is the exact caliber of that coffee.
It exists.
Do we keep going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's go.
On to number 2.
Interesting.
I don't love this one.
I like number 1 better.
I agree. Yeah, this is very weak.
And, this is one of those moments where, do I judge an entire company based on one cup of coffee?
It's not even a cup. It's like this much.
That each of these stores has so many. It's this is one pot.
The funny thing is, too, I probably got them at 10:30, so it's the last pot of the morning also.
That makes me chuckle.
Yeah.
It's these guys are no, Crystal, if you're seeing this, or whoever you are, we don't know yet.
All right, so 1 was decent. 2, not my favorite so far.
I agree with you.
All right.
Significantly less interesting than cup number 1.
Less interesting. All right, let's
That's
do
how
3.
I have to think about it.
This one is really cold.
This is the coldest. And since you
cold.
picked them up and someone else mixed them up, you probably know which one this is. Based
I have no idea. I have a guess, but
I will say I do actually like it. And I snuck a taste of number 4 before we started shooting because I just wanted coffee. And yeah.
I honestly think, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna do a 1 versus 3.
Not a bad idea. There's some taste in this. This is slightly burnt, just so you know. 1 is much warmer.
Yeah.
I think I actually prefer 1.
Do you? I was gonna say I prefer 3 slightly, but it's close. Not
3
terrible.
is slightly burnt.
Okay.
The cream maybe covers that, but
all right.
Again, 1 pot, 1 company.
Yeah.
I can't judge the whole company based on it. I'm going to go number 1 based on that, but let's come back to it. All right, here we go.
Number 4.
I actually like the way this cup of coffee smells a lot.
It smells sweet, and there's not any sugar in it.
No.
Wow. Did I buy hazelnut? It smells like hazelnut.
I think you might have bought hazelnut. Or you bought just whatever they had.
Gave me hazelnut.
They gave you hazelnut. But therefore, I enjoy this cup of
We're
coffee.
judging based on what we've got in front of us. That's good.
It is for sure hazelnut.
Yeah.
It makes me wish I had like a house blend. Does it get to? It's your rule. So
Yeah, we can make them up right now. I don't care.
I mean, if it gets DQ'd based on the fact that we didn't get a black cup,
I don't know.
But
it's my favorite out of
it
the
tastes
four.
high quality.
It's good. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. So, like, for me, 1 and 4 have the most taste. Number 3 was right there with number 1.
Yeah.
But number 4, by far,
Yeah.
was like a delicious cup of coffee.
I completely agree. I think so your ranking is the only one that matters. So my opinion really doesn't count. But so what you're saying is your final rankings are
4, 1, 3,
3, 2.
2. 4, 1, 3, 2.
4, 1, 3, 2. Okay.
And only 2 move on.
Correct. Well, it's a bracket, so it's McDonald's versus Crystal, Racetrack
right.
versus Einstein.
Oh,
Whichever
gosh.
one ranks higher in each side will move on. So let's look up the answers.
Okay. We had
And
someone
I'm
else.
truly looking them up. I don't know.
Yeah. I watched this unfold.
All right, so, and I've got the logos right here. Number 1 is McDonald's.
Okay.
All right.
That is
Number
very surprising.
2 is
And you warned me about that.
number 2 is Crystal.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either.
Sorry, Crystal. You're not White Castle.
You know, the
What
funny
can I
thing
say?
is, they just closed down my Crystal, so I'm glad I came to Athens because I would not have had access to Crystal coffee.
Interesting. You had to map it on the way here.
I literally did. Number 3 is Racetrack,
Okay.
and number 4 is Einstein's.
I knew it was going to be. I had the feeling.
So Einstein's gave me hazelnut coffee. I definitely didn't order it, but there you go. So moving
Maybe
on.
In this next round, you revisit a true black cup, not flavored.
Yeah.
It's possible, and have both. But
So I did have Einstein's regular black coffee in the first round. I forget who they beat in the first round, but they demolished. They were actually one of the best in the first round.
I believe that.
I can vouch for their.
I mean, if you're going to go just based on niche, they're the most niche of the 4 left.
Most
right?
focused on
If Crystal's is
breakfast.
closing down.
I go to
They
Crystal
are most
for
focused
chili
on
cheese
breakfast.
puffs, not coffee.
But, this was hard for me because I'm a Georgia guy, and a company that's based out of Texas that lost in the first round, but has found its way heavily into Georgia is QT.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive QT fan across the board. Donuts,
Sure.
rollers.
Yeah.
You don't get to 215 just not doing that stuff. So I'm surprised Racetrack, but it really was pretty good. It was
Yeah.
a pretty good cup of coffee.
In fairness,
McDonald's is the most surprising.
Racetrack is a customer of mine too, so I'm glad that you're saying this stuff because I don't want to be biased either. So moving ahead into the final round, the championship. These are gone and these are gone. We've got McDonald's versus Einstein.
Is that the bracket? So that was the two sides of the bracket, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually worked out perfectly.
How about that? I think it's a legit. I think it's a legit square off.
Yeah.
This next round,
Put these. That'll be
yeah,
good,
maybe
right?
display them.
Frame them beautifully.
I like that. I have no idea if the camera can see these
Yeah,
or not, but
whatever. So there it is. I'm happy with the final 2. I got to figure out how I'm going to judge the final 2, but I think it's a good final 2.
and hot. Just get them both hot. Those were the 2 warmest as well that we just drank. Were they the
So-
3rd and 4th that you picked up?
No,
Okay.
actually not.
Okay.
I got Einstein's before I left Swanee.
What about McDonald's?
McDonald's was the last one I picked up.
Einstein is really doing something for me right now. They're speaking to my soul right now.
I'm gonna keep drinking my Einstein's.
That coffee is an hour and a half old and still slightly warm.
Yeah, it's good. Find your number 4.
Got
keep
it.
sipping.
I got it. Okay.
All right, so that's that. We're on to the finals of the Great Coffee Showdown, folks. Come back. I'm gonna figure out how to determine a winner, but it's gonna be entertaining. I hope.
It will be.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
McDonald's versus Einstein's. I want to interview. Maybe I'll interview the people that work there.
That would be
and ask
good.
them. what they think.
It'd be really good. I want to hear somebody who's very biased.
Yeah.
I love a good bias.
I would love to see a McDonald's employee throw down against Einstein's
That's why I
employee.
only listen to Georgia Dogs talk radio. It's like I want to hear somebody biased. You know, I don't want to hear somebody non-biased talk about us.
So speaking of interviews, I want to ask you a couple questions. I wrote them down because I didn't want to forget.
Perfect.
So
I have not heard these questions, so these are off the
yeah,
cuff.
yeah, this is true.
No prep.
No prep. Yes. So I think I've only had a couple of friends in my life longer than you. So you're one of my oldest friends, which is awesome. And through that time, I've gotten to see you through quite a few phases of your life, right? Living here, living in Beaufort with us, living in South Carolina, as a musician, purely musician, as a pastor, now in sales. What do you think through those different stops along the way have you picked up? And are there any common threads that you've seen throughout?
Man, it's a great question. I would say that probably the most important thread that I have seen is that authenticity, integrity, and honesty work in every single place that you put your feet. The places that you find inauthenticity, dishonesty, and a lack of integrity, it may work for a moment for whatever the goal is, but it is not a long-term strategy that holds up, whether that be fatherhood, sales, definitely pastoring, and and that's just a sad thing because I've seen a lot go down in the church, and I love the church. I love the local church, and although I don't work in the local church anymore, I still attend and give to a local church, and I believe in the power of the local church when it's operating in integrity and authenticity. I think that's probably one of the hardest things in today's church world. So, but now that I'm in sales and in the marketplace, I also see that it's also something people struggle with there, which isn't as big of a surprise.
No.
But what I see is the people who truly win and go home and can sleep well and have people who are for them and have long-term relationships are the people that really know how to get to a place where they're living their life from a place of integrity and authenticity, which doesn't always look shiny and perfect, but it is always a recipe for long-term legacy. So, and in friendship.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's sales is, I think, the glaring example of that. It's so easy to be dishonest and deceitful, and
it's so tempting to be.
Sure.
Because it can benefit you in sales for a moment.
Yeah.
But long term, it's just not going to. And when I went into my sales role, I remember you and I had a conversation, and you gave me that exact advice. You said, no matter what, serve your client and be honest. If you don't know the answer, do not pretend that you do. And that was a huge piece of advice because I had an idea that I wouldn't know the answer a lot of the times, but I didn't have close to an idea of how many times I wouldn't know the answer to a question they would have, and feel the temptation to want to know the answer so that I could serve them or be portrayed a certain way so that they would use us. But at the end of the day, it has been so worth it to walk through that process with integrity. And I think that's been the biggest thing in my first year of sales, or first 10 months of sales. And I've really appreciated your help along the way too, because you've done that really well. Done that in our friendship, so I know you're doing it elsewhere.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I feel like advice I got early in my sales career was that, you have to be cutthroat, and you have to be a killer, and you have to win at all costs. And I don't believe that personally, and I refuse to believe that about sales in general, that's the only way to do it. And, I haven't had a super long career, but I've made a successful career out of doing things the way that I know they can be done. And I've proven, I've seen in my own life that it can be done that way. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Okay, so one of the other things I wrote down, one of the things I love most about you is that in any situation I've been with you, you're one of the first to congratulate and celebrate with people and support the people around you.
Thank you.
So where do you think that influence comes from in your life?
That's a really good question. I would probably have to give that to my dad. So growing up, my dad was the dad he owned his own construction company. I didn't realize at the time when I was growing up that he was getting up well before 4 a.m. and getting out to job sites or getting to the office so that he could come home and coach our games. And he coached every game. He was a part of like every extracurricular thing that we did. He just seemed to always be there, but I didn't realize how much he was sacrificing to do that. And at the same time, when he would come around or when he would coach or when he would do his thing, like he always had this attitude toward whatever we were doing that was positive. And it wasn't too serious. And, you know, we were pretty good at sports. And I was never, you know, the kid picked last, or I was never the kid that, you know, in pitching machine would strike out, you know. But my dad would zone in on those kids. He would zone in on the kids that, and he still does this. My son just started playing coach pitch. It's his first season ever. It's hysterical. It's the most fun to watch. But my dad still, at 60 years old, just turned 60 last month, he watches the kids who are having trouble making contact with the ball, and he will go out of his way to cheer them on.
Yeah.
And that's just an example. He did that for us as well. He was always trying to refocus us on, if we would take something too seriously, he was always trying to refocus us on what the positives were that we can take away. And I think that was it, is he would always celebrate. He was celebrating.
Go ahead. Coaching them up, or is it cheering them on? Just supporting them, or is he trying to help fix issues?
I think it depends on the moment.
Yeah.
When we were in practice, he would coach them up. But when we were in games, he was cheering them on. And like in the moments that were public, he was never going to even come close to tearing someone down. He was always trying to give someone belief. And it's funny because there's a test now that you can take. It's like Strengths Finders. It shows you your top 5 strengths. It shows you up to your top, you know, it ranks all these strengths in order. And the strengths are a gift. They're not something that you choose along the way. But my number one strength, something that's been in me my whole life, is belief. And then my second one is encouragement. And so
that's funny.
I believe deeply. I don't just encourage for the sake of like someone hearing me encourage. I encourage because I deeply believe in people's ability to do right, to do good, to do well. And I deeply believe in people naturally. It's not something I feel like I chose. It's just when I see people, I deeply want them to know how valuable they are because I believe it. And so I think it's also just a gift that God has given me along the way, and something that I want to steward well. Yeah. And I don't want to use it, and I have before used it to manipulate people's affirmations of me, but I don't want to be found using it for any other reason than for someone else to potentially believe in themselves. So.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. It was a long-winded answer to that question.
No. That's a great answer. So along those lines, the last question I wrote down was kind of similar. So speaking of influence, you're one of the first people I think of when I hear that word. Paul is another one. In any room I've been in with you, the people in that room are looking at you. And I don't think it's necessarily because you're the loudest in the room, but it's because you have influence over people, just naturally. And I'm curious, like, how that impacts your interactions with people, either positively or negatively.
Wow. These questions are heavy hitters. I was like, I thought it was going to be like, hey, man, tell me about your shoe size. And
well, we can do that too.
Nike. Man, I mean, here's the honest truth, is there have been moments and I really appreciate your encouragement towards me in this time, but there have been moments where my influence has been leveraged to meet my own unmet needs from when I was a kid, and, you know, needs of feeling desired or feeling affirmed or adequate. And I can have tendencies to feel inadequate myself.
I do all the time.
So no matter what influence is pushed my way, I always want to steward it well, even though there are just times that I don't feel the confidence to do so. But it's a gift as well. Influence is a gift. It is not something that you choose. It's maybe something that some of us dream about. What would it be like to have influence? But influence is heavy.
Sure.
And influence has a cost. And so, that being the case, every great gift has great cost. And I believe influence is one of those things. So, in context to your question, there are moments that I believe that I've stewarded it well, and there are moments that I catch myself stewarding poorly based on whatever is happening inside of me emotionally. I don't want to be someone who's tossed by my emotions too far right or left, but I do want to be aware of them and what I'm needing in those moments. So in a room full of people, which is not my natural bend, I'm slightly more introverted.
Since the guy who's a professional musician is on stage many days of your life.
And this is one of those funny things. The first time I ever got on stage, you and I have talked about this story, but the first time I ever got on stage, my brother told me he was going to beat me up if I didn't sing in front of this group of people. It was like 50 people. And I was so introverted at the time that I got up there, I lost feeling in my knees, and they were shaking. And when I got off stage, I realized I had slightly peed myself. I was 16 years old. And I promise you couldn't have written it the way that it happened, but 5 years later, I didn't ask my way into it, but 5 years later, I find myself with a group of guys singing in front of 18 million people on live television. Mm-hmm. The same night, I grew up a huge baseball fan, as you can tell, and the same night, I remember it was the same night as the All-Star Game, the MLB All-Star Game in 2011, and I remember them coming into our room and they're like, "We're the number one show on television and 18 million people tonight." And I was like, they were like, "We just squeaked out past the All-Star Game at 17 million. And all I could think to myself was, what is wrong with America? And so I was like, literally just sitting there thinking, I wish I was watching the All-Star Game. It was the first one I've ever missed. And so like this introverted kid who my parents would still say, like, most introverted kid that you had ever met. I didn't order my own meal at a restaurant until I was 16 years old because my little sister wasn't in the car with me to order through a drive-thru, which was number one McDonald's. Right. So, and I literally remember just freaking out in the drive-thru at 16 years old. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to a human I don't know.
Parker, you hear that? It's okay. You can talk to the speaker box.
And it's okay. And one of the things that I'll never say over my son is like, he's the shyest kid I'll know, or my daughter. Even if they struggle with shyness, I don't want them to believe that they are someone who is shy, because they do have the ability and the strength within themselves to like carry whatever thing they were gifted with.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm still coming to understand at 33 years old, is I was given a gift that is a stewardship. It's now a stewardship issue. So I can either steward it poorly or I can steward it well. And it doesn't have to be about anybody else. And it really doesn't even have to be about me. It just has to deal with a stewardship thing, with a gift that God has put in us. Will we steward it well? Yours is a gift with people. You're one of the most gifted with people that I've ever seen in my life. And people are magnetized to you, and it's a gift, and you don't steward it, again, with lack of integrity or inauthenticity. You steward it with the things that matter and the things that are everlasting. And I want to do the same thing with influence. It's like, if I can walk into a place, see people and meet people where they are, I think that's the best way for me personally to have influence, to maintain influence, and to gain more influence, is I want to steward every single relationship well.
Yeah.
And so to the best of my ability, not to the best of my best friend Paul's ability. Is amazing with
the
people.
definition of.
Yeah. Or yours, but mine.
Mm-hmm.
What is my responsibility to steward a relationship well and influence well? That's a huge question. I hope I answered it in the way that you were asking.
No, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Yeah, absolutely. So for all you shy kids out there that don't talk much when you get older, look what you can become.
God might just ask you to sing in front of millions of people.
Be your pants.
Scare your lights out. I was just as scared at 21. I just want to be clear. There's times of standing in front of thousands that I wasn't afraid at all, but like That was one of those moments where as soon as they brought in the All-Star Game, it was over for me. I was like,
maybe a little bit better at holding your bladder.
Is Freddie Freeman in this All-Star Game? Gosh, R.I.P.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So thank you. This has been super fun. My last question I always ask is the same. And we've touched on it a little bit, but we're here in Athens. There's great coffee shops in Athens.
Yes.
When you walk into whichever one, when you walk into a coffee shop, what is the go-to order for Adam Kersh?
That's a perfect question. Right now, it depends on season.
Oh, okay.
And it also depends on what coffee shop I'm walking into. So Athens, if I could pump a couple niche shops.
Yeah, let's go.
Thousand Faces is one of my favorites. Molly's, and Molly used to work at Thousand Faces, funny enough. They're the only two coffee shops that carry sparkling water, like all year round. So during the hot months, from like April to really now, depending on the day, I love a sparkling iced Americano.
What?
So like an Americano with sparkling water on ice.
I've never heard of that.
And it is incredibly refreshing. It's black coffee. But then when I get into the hotter months, it's either going to be a black cup of Trader Joe's coffee in the morning. It's like they have this maple coffee that is just banging.
It's
in
so
the
good.
fall. It's so good. Or if I'm going to a coffee shop, I want a honey oat milk. Secret weapon of coffee is oat milk. The like earthy nuttiness of the oat milk is way better than almond milk. Almond milk sucks.
I hate almond milk too. Yeah.
But oat milk, I think it brings out the flavor of espresso. I'm getting really heady right now, but this is what you asked for.
This is great.
And then honey is a natural sweetener. And that drink made by a great coffee shop, a honey oat milk latte. Choose a 12 ounce if you like to taste the coffee too, but 16, it gets really milky.
That sounds fantastic.
So that's like my go-to hot drink right now, and it is freaking fantastic.
That's so good. So I have the benefit of knowing the answers of everybody else I've talked to, and I think we've now hit the full spectrum. So your coffee order is very nuanced, very specific.
It is.
Very knowledgeable about coffee. My dad is the exact opposite. My dad's interview, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's one of the best I've done, and it has nothing to do with me. It's my dad is awesome.
Wait.
His is, I drink a donut shop K-cup every morning, right in the Keurig machine. It's like the simplest coffee you can get.
Can we just pump Donut Shop for a second? A Donut Shop K-cup is the best K-cup that I have found consistently.
I'm with you.
I can't find another one that I think has more consistency than that stinking Donut Shop, and our office carries it. So like,
of course,
that's what I'll drink at the office.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, thank you so much. This has been fun. Thanks you for helping to decide the final two. Make sure you come back. It's probably going to be a couple weeks. I got to figure out the logistics of how I'm going to determine a champion. But the great coffee showdown. We're down to McDonald's versus Einstein's. This has been Adam Kersh.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
I love you.
All right, see y'all. Catch you next week.